I'm Karen Marshall, and I started at the center in 1987, and I was hired in as a volunteer director and administrative director, and I was hired in under one of the first funding grants that we got for HIV funding, and it was the first official recognition we got as a community agency besides little grants that we had received. So at that time it was just the beginning of our actually funded staff positions. And then we started hiring clinical staff, and then about 2 months later I hired my boss, Scott Fulkerson, who was my executive director at the time. And I stayed at the center until 2000, and I worked as the administrative director, volunteer coordinator, and then took over as executive director in some point until 2000 when I left. So yeah, I don't remember what year. About 6 years I was the executive director. So my favorite memory, that's hard. There were so many of them. One of them was being called up in the middle of the night because someone had moved into the center when we were on Fifth Avenue at the place behind the brass rail. And we had a guy living in the center at the basement, and he would call and tell me when there was a problem. And he said, "We got somebody moving in." And I said, "What do you mean someone moved in?" He said, "This guy moved in. He hung his clothes, he moved the furniture." And I said, "Okay, I'll be down." So I get down there, and he was serious. Somebody had moved into the building, they had rearranged it, and he said, "I'm gay, I can live here." And I was like, "No, you can't, you gotta move." He said, "But I'm gay, this is my living room." And I'm like, "No, it's not." And so we had to get this gentleman out of the center. But the guy that was let me know, his name was Street Mike, and he helped us out for a long time while we lived in that building. And then there's so many little stories that came from that building until we moved to Nightmare on Normal Street building, which was a real interesting building that we sort of dreamed about getting a building for our own. And it was at a board meeting, and we were on a board retreat, and Scott sat down and said, "We're going to have our own building in a year." And everybody went, "Yeah." We left, and we all decided we're going to get a building. Within a year, we were putting offers in, and we had a building, and we just needed the money to redecorate it and open it. And it was an empty, dank, dark building, and we didn't have the money to redo it. So everybody in the community thought we lied. So we decided, it was around October, and some of the board members and staff got together and said, "We're going to do Nightmare on Normal Street so the community knows we're going to be here." So we kept making a big deal about, this is going to be the new home of the center, and this is Nightmare on Normal Street. And we weren't in there. They cleaned it up, and the board members at the time had to scrub the toilets. They were amazing. Pick up the street. But that was the beginning of Nightmare on Normal Street. It was about, we have a new community center coming on board, and we can't afford it quite yet, but we're getting there. So we want everybody to know we're going to be there. And there were so many fun things that happened.